Hello and welcome to Prague Chattery 777. We are talking about Gentle Giant and we've made it to their fourth album, Octopus. This is a biggie, I think. Like I was saying before in the other videos, I think, each one of their albums is very unique and each one is a contender for being, the best thing they did, with the exception of maybe the last two. But for me, there's three standout moments where I think they really nailed something. The first one is Acquiring the Taste, their second album. The second moment is this album, and I think the third moment is Freehand, a couple albums after this. But this is a very unique album in the catalog in that it is it's the first one that has, I guess, the quote classic lineup, but it's actually the only album to have this particular lineup. The last album to feature the six-piece Gentle Giant. This has the three Shulman brothers, so Derek, Ray, and Phil, as well as Gary Green on guitars, Kerry Minier on keyboards and various other instruments, and the newcomer John P. Weathers, who was the drummer, and remained the drummer until the end of their catalog. And like I said, the classic lineup is basically the lineup on this minus Phil Shulman. Phil Shulman left after the tour for this album. He was a little bit older than the rest of the band, and was kind of looking to move on in life. Plus, at the time, Gentle Giant was touring with Black Sabbath, which is absolutely ridiculous and probably, one of the worst pairings ever, I think. They didn't stand a chance. They weren't going to go down with the Sabbath fans. There's no way. Just stylistically, they're Gentle Giant. They've got their heavy moments, obviously, but generally, they're on the lighter side of things. A lot of kind of medieval minstrelry and folk and, kind of Baroque influences. And the switching instruments that they used were, on the lighter side of things, cello and violin, recorders, obviously. But yeah, this album is absolutely fantastic. I think there's something very definitive about it. I think it's the definitive example of what Gentle Giant music is. You can point to any one of the songs on here, and it's exactly what they were going for. Obviously, it's very, very complex, and there's a lot of twists and turns, and all those things. Similar to, obviously, I think Acquiring the Taste is probably the most complex album up to this point. This is probably more complex, but it's more streamlined. Like, there was some really drastic changes in certain songs on Acquiring the Taste, like for example, The House, the Street, the Room, where you get here's where the tape ends and it goes straight into this section. The songs on here they're more streamlined. They they have lots of different bits and a lot of complicated bits, but everything the arrangements are better. They're serving the song a little bit more. But these are ultimately more compositions than songs, I think. Also, it's got a great album cover. This is the North American release. It's got the octopus in a jar. And flip it over, and it's the opposite image. Quite cool. Obviously, we get the giant face there. There's also a diver. I think I like the European album cover better. It's I don't have a copy of it, but it's got the Roger Dean artwork and a little more dramatic than the jar, but it doesn't matter. The music is what matters, so let's talk about that. The first side we put on, and we get the first song, The Advent of Panurge. This is going back to that French mythology thing, French legendary giants, I think. And it's an out-and-out Gentle Giant classic. It's got mainly, I think it's Kerry Minier does the vocals for all of it except for the chorus. We got Derek Shulman on the heavier vocals, but it's just so incredibly musical. Like the opening sequence, like the way that the guitar line is interacting with the keyboard lines, which is then interacting with the vocal melody. I mean, the vocal melodies are never really melodies that sit on top. They're just, you know, the vocals are following other lines to juxtapose the other instruments, to juxtapose the guitar and the keyboards and or the whatever the heck is going on. And there's a great example of that at the very beginning of Advent of Panurge, and Carrie's voice does that. You know, it just kind of rhythmically fits in with the rest of the jigsaw. The jigsaw puzzle is a good way to describe a lot of this music. And it's got all these really cool sections. It goes into a really heavy stomping section with extraordinarily low notes that just boom. They really hit it's heavy. Like not like distorted guitar heavy, but I mean, it's just a heavy, weighted sound. There's a lot to the sound. And we're introduced to John Weathers' drumming, which is far different from the drummers they'd had before. He's very much a straight up, heavy rock drummer. And I used to think he was a little simplistic, but that's not at all a fair comment, because he's brilliant at finding the perfect thread with all this complex stuff going on. I mean, he finds the perfect place to put that straight ahead beat, and it gives the music a drive. I mean, it really changes the overall sound and style of the band. And this is like I said, I think this is where they really definitively found their style, actually. Acquiring the Taste is a brilliant album, but it's a happy coincidence in that they were still looking to find this. So then the song goes into the big chorus. My name is Panurge, and I come from hell. Very good. And then again, talking about juxtaposition, we got Phil Shulman comes in with the big trumpet bit. Da 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 da. Brilliant. It's such a classic Gentle Giant moment. One of the Gentle Giant moments. Then it kind of goes into a groove, and we get some kind of whispered Carrie Meniere vocals. Kind of a made-up language of the Giants thing. Kind of meanders for a little bit, which is really cool. Like I said, they're locked into a really good groove. Like the rhythm section of Ray Shulman and John Weathers is just fantastic, because I mean, Ray's bass playing is so fantastic and so rhythmic, and it interacts with everything so well. And then the way that John Weathers interacts with the bass again it's classic stuff. It's wonderful music, and it deserves more attention. The song goes for one more final chorus and then a big sudden ending, which is cool. Then we get Raconteur Troubadour, the second song, which again, this is really putting that medieval minstrelry right to the fore. We get it sounds like a troubadour kind of a song, and again, very rich instrumentation. Again, we get these really kind of neat, stately verses, and there's a really cool interaction between the bass and the vocal melody, which where they kind of switch as the verse goes along, and it's a subtle thing. It means that it's like the puzzle pieces all switch position, and you're getting the same information, you're getting the same phrases and the same themes and lines and whatnot, but they rearrange all the pieces and swap the instrumentation. And there's a great example of that in Raconteur Troubadour on the verses. And then we get the complex middle sections, which again, like I was saying, they're smoother than the complex sections on Acquiring the Taste. And that's what gives this album the edge, I reckon. So yeah, again, two absolutely classic songs by Gentle Giant right off the bat. Then we get our third song, which is A Cry for Everyone. This is their Gentle Giant does a heavy rock song, and it's still loaded with all the kind of weird interplay and musical complexity that is on the rest of the album. It's just done with kind of a heavier heavier drive, a heavier force. A great thing for John Weathers, obviously, to be able to push the band through a heavier song like that. And again, lots of twists and turns, and it's unpredictable, which makes it, for me, very engaging. Again, you can't get bored listening to this stuff. There's always new things that you'll pick up on. new little lines or new little bits of instrumentation. Then the final song on side 1, track 4 of the album, is Knots, and this is up there as one of the all-time Gentle Giant classic tracks. It's absolutely brilliant. A really good display of what I think it's hocketing, where they get a different instrument to play each of the to play each note of a melody. So boom, they do that, and each note is played. Each member plays a different instrument and hits a different note of the phrase. So it ends up sounding very disjointed and jangled and bizarre, but it's still very coherent as well. This is again a testament to the arranging skills of Kerry Minnear. Well, obviously, the big notable thing of Knots is the vocal performance by all the members of the band, where we get it's just extraordinarily complex, but well arranged and well executed, and you can't really talk about it. You just got to hear it. The vocals introduce the song, so you'll hear what I'm talking about. The first moments of the song you hear. It's got a great little jazzy section, and parts of it are just beautiful. Again, there's that thing where even though the music is complex, it's very emotive. And the being afraid part, the being afraid, be afraid. I don't know what it is. That's another one of those moments that it hits me, which is good. And again, this is why this is an absolutely essential album. This is one of my favorite albums. This is up there. This is on that high level of things that I hold in very high regard. So anyway, we flip the side. We get side 2, opens with The Boys in the Band. This is a absolutely stellar instrumental. The band is an absolute peak form in terms of performance. And it's again very well arranged, tightly arranged. It's about 4.5 minutes. We get the dramatic intro and outro, and really wacky, kind of bouncy middle section. And again, just extremely complex to be able to get the cue to get your cues right. Playing this kind of stuff is it takes a hell of a lot of study and practice and rehearsal. And then it goes into a really great kind of groove section. It's just great, and again, you kind of get that emotive feeling from it. That middle section is, just get a sense of nostalgia from it. I mean, I know it's just an instrumental, but I mean, it's just the right combination of, harmony, melody, and rhythm, and you just get this, it hits you. It hits you with a great sense of classicness. A great highlight of the band's career, The Boys in the Band. Then we move on to Dog's Life, which this is kind of the acoustic number. It's got some stately, classical kind of influences to it. Big showcase for the violin, obviously. And the last time we hear Phil Shulman do a full song on the vocals, he sings this whole song. And it's not really a highlight of the album. There's some really fun percussion on it. You kind of get that kazoo sound that comes in, which is lots of fun, lots of silliness. Lyrically, I think it's about their roadies, comparing them to dogs. It's very silly. Great song, but not my favorite, not the best on the album. We move on to third song on side 2, Think of Me with Kindness. This is unique on the album in that it's the one moment where they consciously simplify things, and it's a tender piano ballad. Really, we got really nice Kerry Minnear vocal on it. We still get the awkward rhythm. We still get that Gentle Giant trademark in the middle section, which is really weird and strange. That da 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 da. But I really like it. It's just jolting enough to again be engaging, and it it's not a typical piano ballad, and that it just kind of goes on and on. We get this little bow in the middle, so it's good. And good enough that I'd consider it, again, a classic Gentle Giant song. I actually really like Think of Me with Kindness. Then we get to the final song of the album, River. And this one, I often wonder like how it's received. I've always thought it's really cool. A little bit more laid back than some of the other stuff on the album, I guess, but it's still very electric. It's got a jazziness to it. Lots of kind of cool changes. Again, the violin, Ray Shulman's violin is on, is a great example of that. We get the actual final Phil Shulman vocal on River. He does the kind of spacey middle section. Fantastic Gary Green guitar solo on River. And yeah, it's a nice little way to close the album. And like I said, it's an absolute classic. I think it's one of Gentle Giant's best. It's a unique one. It's done by, the classic lineup plus one of the originals. John Weathers is on board now. Yeah, it's really good. You could look at it and call, every song on this is really a Gentle Giant classic. So it's essential. You should go check it out. Yeah, Gentle Giant Octopus. I did it. I talked about it. And next time I'm going to talk about In a Glass House. So yeah, making good headway. We'll see you then. Thanks for tuning in.